Welcome to Coffee Talk with Liquidshano 1973, an inspirational podcast about the ups and downs of life and everything in between. Here's your host, Shane Lakita.
Hey everyone, good morning or evening, or like I always say, whatever time of the day that you're listening to this podcast. I'm appreciative of each and every one of you being here with me on this podcast, listening to me ramble and rant into this microphone about life, about situations, about positivity, about achieving goals, or whatever it is that's on my mind at the moment that is on my mind. I get on here with you to talk about it. And you're supportive, your love, your adoration, all the things that you've done. Some of you that have left feedback on iTunes and Podbean and all these other applications. I'm so appreciative of all of you, and the amount of gratitude that I have can't even be described. It can't even be listed out into words, the amount of love that I feel from every single one of you that have sent me text messages, emails, TikToks, Facebook messages, Instagram, whatever it is. You've taken the time to be able to invest in me every single time that you give me feedback or give me some reinforcement or even some coaching and some directional feedback that I need. So I'll tell you about a couple things real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. I actually just finished a podcast. I went as a guest on someone else's the other day, and the podcast is called Father's Fire. It's all one word, FATHERSFYRE. As you could see, the fire is spelt with a Y. And basically, he does a podcast about dads and about how amazing dads are and how we want to celebrate in the fact that dads are important and fathers are a part of the equation that often can be forgotten, yet he celebrates in it. And he celebrates in good dads and people that give great examples and people that have been through trials and tribulations and things like that as he progresses and moves forward and celebrates in that and really elevates the conversation around what it takes to be a good dad and what the brain work it is all about. So I'll also put the link to the podcast itself in the body of this podcast here, so that way you guys can click right on it, or just go to Father's Fire podcast and you'll see I'm the last one that was on there. I also have another good friend named Joe Tang that's on another episode that's on there. So he's really reaching out to people that are doing great things, but also are dads in the meantime. And so they have to balance out that pendulum swing of job and family and investing and all that stuff. And our conversation was so great. His name is Jody. He's the host, and he did just an amazing job of us to be able to have this conversation and lighten it up a little bit and really talk about some of the ins and outs and some of the things that I've been through and who I pattern my fatherly behaviors after in my life. I mean, as many of you know, I lost my dad just this last year, almost 1 year anniversary of losing my father to the dreadful and dreaded disease of Alzheimer's at a very young age. But it gave me a lot of time to reflect. And I've had a lot of time to sit back and think about things and really evaluate how I am as a dad and evaluate how I am as a businessman, how I am as a social person, and how I interact with other folks and those kind of things. It's really given me a lot of pause to think to myself, I've only got a short amount of time on this earth, so why not make it a positive one? Why not invest in other people, lift other people up, encourage others to be the best version of themselves, much like what a dad would do, correct? So it's interesting when we went on there and we did the podcast. It was a great interview, a great conversation that we were able to just kind of banter back and forth and talk about a lot of stuff. But it also gave me perspective, and it gave me pause to sit back and think to myself, I can be better, and I can continue to elevate, and I can continue to invest, and I can continue to encourage and lift other people up into achieving the goals they want to be able to achieve and accomplish the feats that they never thought that they were going to be able to accomplish. Now, there's no magic bullet. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic salt you can sprinkle on something. It's going to take hard work and it takes dedication. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for. To be able to encourage you during those times when it feels like it's impossible. During those times where you feel like life is closing in on you, I'm a voice that can be helping you move forward. and be positive and do the things that are necessary for you to invest in yourself and continue the path to success. Don't we all want to be successful, right? All of us. Every single one of us want to be successful in whatever it is that we're trying to be able to work on. So if it is job-related stuff that you want to work on, of course you want to be successful. But it really is difficult when you don't have somebody that's in your corner encouraging you and lifting you up. If you want to lose weight, it's really difficult to do so when you have everybody else eating quarter pounders with cheese and French fries as you're trying to muddle through the waters and do the things that you have to do and travel that dynamic of trying to eat healthy and be fit and exercise and all that stuff. And then you have those folks that are around you that are eating the quarter pounder cheese and French fries that bad mouth you because you're preaching too much about the fit, all that stuff. You know exactly what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is we need people in our corners during these times that we are trying to better ourselves. I'm that guy for you. I'm that voice of support, encouragement, uplifting, all those things. I try to match my personal life with my podcast life and my social media life because I feel it's totally and 100% inauthentic or not authentic for me to be one way in my personal life and then another way in my social life. Right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I connect with certain people and certain personalities because they are who they are. And if they're positive influences, I want to surround myself with those types of people. So, to go back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about the Father's Fire podcast, we talked a lot about investing. We talked a lot about investing in your children, being able to continue to listen in your relationship with your wife and everything. And one of the things that I learned from the podcast and in the reflection piece from the podcast was that I'm very proud of the dad that I am. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast is all about that word being proud. So when you think of a word like proud, I get a lot of flack from a lot of people on social media because they're like, I think I've done before a social media post where I've gone out and I've said, hey, list one thing that you're most proud of or two things that you're most proud of and list it out on the social media post, put it on the comments or whatever. And people will go through a lot of really beautiful, heartfelt, amazing things that they're sharing that they're most proud of. And it's just a really great feeling to everything, right? I mean, it feels really great. But then I also have those people that are saying it isn't about pride. It isn't about being proud of something. It's about actions, behaviors, and all those things. And I say touche to that because I understand where you're coming from with the fact of if you're too prideful of something, there's a couple different things. So let's get into the word pride, right? So pride, when you're proud of something, you are boasting about yourself, about the behavior, about the achievement, about the accomplishment, or whatever. And a lot of people look at that as a negative. Some people think that if you're proud of something and you are vocal about that pride or you are posting stuff about that pride, just like people that post images of their workouts or post images or videos of their bodies that they're so proud of and those kind of things, people think that that is vanity and think that that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Egotistical, right? They think you're an egomaniac if you go out there and you're prideful of the things that you're doing and accomplishing and everything else. I find myself doing it even when I talk about the podcast, which I feel is successful in the venture of where we're at. It's not the same numbers as some of the top podcasters that are out there or whatever, but I'm helping one person at a time. So I'm super prideful of that. But the fact of the matter is when people ask me about my podcast, I'm the humility side of it where I don't want to come across as an egomaniac kicks in and I literally look at them and say, oh, it's just a podcast, man. It's just me. I just go on there and I'm talking and I have a conversation about my life and the things that I'm going through and I'm helping people along the way. And, it's okay. It's whatever. No, I should be proud of the things that I'm accomplishing. Instead of selling myself short, I should be sitting back and saying, I started a podcast a couple years ago while trying to lose weight, sharing my ups and downs, and found along the way connections with people that I consider to be like family to me. sharing connections with people that I consider to be, that love me unconditionally, much like I love my dog and my family. This realm that I'm playing in the podcast world is super competitive. Yet I have 170,000 downloads with over 2 million feed hits on my podcast. Now that's all numbers mumbo jumbo, but it's something to be proud of. It's a quantifiable number that I can look at to say I'm proud of the fact that here I am sitting in my office upstairs in Scarborough, Maine, where I am recording on a microphone, a small tiny mixer, and a Surface Pro, and I'm having the conversation into a microphone to be able to spit out to many other people to hopefully have them be inspired and move forward. That is something I should be proud of. But too often, I sit back and I sell it short. And I say, I negate a lot of the positive things that I do just based on the fact that I don't want to come across as an egotistical egomaniac or somebody that's super confident or overconfident or those kind of things. I'm sure that 90% of you all feel exactly what I'm saying here. Or if you receive hate on something, let's say, for instance, on Instagram, and you're a bodybuilder or a lifter or somebody that works out, and you're really proud of the fact that your definition in your arms is really on point right now because you have worked your tail off for months after months after months, eating right, doing the right workouts, working out, being vigilant, trucking through, doing everything you need to do, and you have one person that says to you, oh, great, another one of those kind of posts. And it deflates your whole entire mantra. After you put this out there to be proud of the fact that you have worked your tail off to get there, and we're in this space where people think that you are cocky or arrogant or pompous, when all you're really trying to do is celebrate in the fact that you have worked your butt off. Now, maybe some of that is because people have been used and abused or targeted by people that are coaches or health coaches or those kind of things or whatever. I get all the background story, and there's a lot of baggage that goes with that. And human nature is not one that truly supports other people in its natural form, which is a whole nother story and a whole nother psychological experiment in and of itself. I don't understand the fact that we try to break each other down rather than lift each other up. It makes zero sense. No sense whatsoever when all you can do is lift other people up, and then the army begins to being the fact that we are in a positive space. But instead, we are in this society and a world with human nature and humans that want to break each other down left and right. With that being said, it also doesn't lend very well into this space of being proud. Because a lot of times when we're proud of ourselves, we have haters and we have people that look at you and say, you're being kind of a jerk. You're being cocky. You're being arrogant. I have true friends of mine that are in the best health shape of their lives. And they're amazing individuals. And if you really dig into the conversation with those folks, you'll find out that there are so many layers to them. And they're just, there's rich history. And it's just really, really great individuals. But because they post pictures every day when they go to the gym or they wake up in the morning or they're doing whatever because they're proud of the things that they're doing, they get all these comments of people that think that they're cocky and arrogant. And then also, maybe not even comments, but people then start to judge them. And they look at them and they say, oh, you know what? I don't even want to talk to that person because they're not my cup of tea. I'm not the one that works out. Not knowing that all that they want to do is encourage you just like you want to encourage other people. At the end of the day, they're just like you. They're just excelling in one area and they're proud of it. Just like you might be great at reading or great at being a dad or great at being a mom or great at being a teacher or great at being a driver. I don't really care what it is. And you should be proud of the things that you're good at and the things that you work at and the things that you are vigilant with and you're diligent in your process of training and working and all those things. We have a right to be proud of ourselves. I know I've shared this on some of my podcasts back in the day, was in my job, I sit down with people and we go through observations, we go through different stuff, whether it's a sales process or whether it's financials or whatever. And I always start off all of my presentations and all of my conversations with what went well. Tell me what you're most proud of. What do you think that you did or are doing that is currently working for you that we need to talk about? And let me tell you, it is hard for people to understand the concept of compliments. It's hard for people to understand the concept of I should be proud of the things that I'm doing. It's difficult for people to understand the concept of parking in a space of positivity for just a little while. Why? Because we're trained to always be better. We're trained to always try to strive for more. We're trained to always beat ourselves up because the way society makes it and the way that the whole generation of the sales tactics that are out there, whether it's through makeup or through weight loss stuff or through self-help books or whatever else, they're always trying to sell a product to you that you're less than and you're not that great. So that way they can sell their product to make you better. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what they're trying to do. They're a for-profit business. They are not a non-profit business. Any of these businesses that are trying to be able to go out there and sell something to you for self-help, self-care, self-beauty, any of those things. And that's why it's such a major industry, because we park in the space of negativity so often, over and over and over again. It happens all the time. I hear it through the podcast. I hear it through social media. I hear it through my friends, my family, anybody that struggles a little bit with depression or self-worth. The society we live in only elevates that more and more and more until we're in this space where we're just trained to look at the negatives of everything. So when I ask business owners or I ask associates that are selling or anything like that in my job, and I say to you, what are you most proud of? What went really well? They have such a difficult time. And then if they do, this is the way it usually goes. Oh, I was really proud of the interaction that I had with that customer. But you know what I could have done better? Immediately they go into, but you know what I could have done better. They use the word but more than anything else. Because we're in a society that's built around perfection and trying to fix problems all the time instead of parking in the space that we are all strong, amazing individuals. We just sell ourselves short. I do it all the time with myself. I don't lift myself up enough. Of course, that might be one of the reasons why I surround myself with people that can be considered to be hype men or hype women for me, to be able to help lift me up and encourage me, because I need that sometimes. It's not the way that I'm wired, and it's not the way society wires me. We naturally always go towards the negative. So here's what I want you to do with this podcast. I want you to sit back, and I truly want you to look at, and it can be just between you, a piece of paper, your journal, or whatever you're writing this down on. And I really want you to think to yourself, weigh out the things that you're most proud of. It could be 70 things. It could be one thing. I want you to take the time. Do not think of the negatives. I don't want you to think of anything that needs to be fixed. I don't want you to think about the fact that you're overweight. I don't want you to think about the fact that you don't have a job that you love. I don't want you to think about the fact that you can't exercise the way you want to exercise. I don't want you to think about the fact that you don't fit into a social class like all your friends and whatever else. I don't want you to list out anything that's going on socially, politically, or anything like that. I want you to concentrate on you in this podcast. I want you to focus on the things that you are most proud of about yourself. Now, watch how difficult that's going to be, guys. Watch how many times you may use a but when it comes to it. Now, I'm not talking about my derriere. I'm talking about the word but. Where you might say, you know what, I've lost 100 pounds, but I've got about 50 more to go. I lost 100 pounds, but I've actually gained 20 of it back, so I'm going to continue to work on it. I have a good paying job, but I'm not really that happy with my job, and I need to make sure that I can advance or do things differently. I have a great relationship, but, we're having some issues or whatever. Listen, take out the buts today. There's a room for it. There's a place for it. We always want to grow. We always want to be better. I understand. I fully comprehend what we're talking about here. But this episode of this podcast is about being proud of yourself. Taking a moment to look at the things that you do well. Are you a good dad? Write that down. Are you a good mom? Write that down. Are you proud of the grandmother or grandfather that you've become? Write that down. Are you financially responsible? Where you manage the bills very well and you guys aren't in debt or anything like that? Write that down. Are you athletic? Do you play basketball and you're really good at what you're doing when you play basketball? Well, we'll write that down too. You guys always hear me say, take inventory of the things that not only are things that you want to work on, but take inventory of the things that you have in your disposal, in your arsenal to help you when you move forward. If you're writing down all the things that you want to do or the things that you do really well, if you write down all the things that you do really well, why do you think we need to do that? Is it just to write down the words because Shane said so on the podcast? Okay. No, there's a purpose behind it. Here's the reason you need to do it. Down the road, when you start to set your goals and you start to really put one foot in front of the other towards going for your dreams and your aspirations and trying to accomplish things, you're going to be able to reference these things that you're most proud of, the things that you truly do very well, to be able to use as skills moving forward. If you know you lost 100 pounds and you stop there and don't use a but, what did you do to get there? How did you lose the 100? Not the pounds that you've gained back, not the more 50 more that you have to go. What have you done so far to lose the 100? And what are the behaviors that you put in place? And why are you proud of them? Because some of those things are translatable to everything else you're doing in life. You can legitimately, you think about it, you can legitimately use any of those skill sets. Whether it's mental fortitude, whether it's patience, whether it's drive, whether it's focus, whether it's whatever, all the things that you can list out to say that you're most proud of achieving the goals that you've achieved so far and what you're most proud of, you can utilize with any other aspect of life if you really think about it. But the problem is we sell ourselves short. We don't give ourselves the credit where credit is due. Because maybe we grew up in a relationship, maybe in our household, where dad or mom wasn't as supportive and they always beat you down whenever they needed to. Or maybe you're in a relationship, in a marriage, where your spouse or somebody else they always belittle you or don't really talk about all the things you do really well or those kind of things. We're trained to sell ourselves short. And we got to stop that. We have to change the narrative of the fact of the way society builds us and the way society trains us to be negative, to be maybe, selling ourselves short, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying with the fact that society trains us to be the way that it tells us to be. It's our time now to start to change the narrative. Just like all the political stuff that you see, just like all the other stuff that you see. It doesn't change unless we start to have a conversation about it and we start to build behaviors around making the changes that are necessary to make true change. You're the same. If you've been patterned all your life to be negative, if you've been patterned all your life to be somebody that sells yourself short, now's the time to start to invest in you. Find accountability buddy. Find a family member. Ask somebody to be a support for you, to be able to have a conversation with you whenever you need it, to be able to lift you out of the sand, out of the dirt, out of the muck, out of the mire of all that stuff that you're going through, for you to be able to invest in you, believe in you, and do the things possible for you to know that you personally can achieve and accomplish whatever it is that you set your mind, your heart, and your soul to. You're worth that investment. You hear that all the time on this podcast. We are worth the investment of investing in us. You've got to start doing that. And the reason I say you've got to is because really it's me looking in the mirror saying I've got to. Because I do it way too often. Hey, Shane, you lost 100 pounds. Yeah, but I gained about 30 of those back. Yeah, but hey, Shane, guess what? You got your master's degree. Yeah, but my job really doesn't, I don't really have any opportunities at work that can really use that job, that master's degree. Hey, Shane, you've got your master's degree. Oh, yeah, but I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. It's just insane. I've got all this stuff going on. Hey, Shane, you got a podcast. Yeah, but I really don't have the downloads I'm looking for. Not a lot of people leaving reviews. You hear what I'm saying? We're always button all the time. We got to stop. You have to stop. We have to stop. Our loved ones deserve it. We deserve it. And we're only on this earth for a short amount of time. So why not take that time investing in yourself and investing in those around you? Right? Because by you investing in yourself, you essentially invest in those around you anyway. Because they're going to get a refreshed version of you. They're going to get a focused version of you. They're going to get somebody that cares and believes in themselves, and then which in turn helps them to believe in others around them, and they're not all living in this negative space. God, wouldn't it be great if the world could take on this mantra and really take a look at all the positive things that we're doing in the world? Would it be great that we could just live with each other, lift each other up, and encourage each other all the time? Wouldn't it be amazing? I mean, I would want to live in that world. But I can see why people are just adamant about the fact that the world is crumbling all around us, because we are patterned this way. We are patterned the way of the negative world because it's easy to do. And it's hard work being positive. It's hard work digging in on the can-do stuff. But it's easy to blame and redirect and think to yourself, I can't do because of whatever reasons. It's so easy. And we all lean in on it. We all slide down that road so many times. So there's my message, guys. Today, take inventory. Write down what you're most proud of. Think to yourself truly what you're most proud of. And even if it's a small little thing as minuscule as I feed my cat every morning, or I have a garden that's growing pretty plentiful. I don't care how small it is. If you're proud of it, write it down and use that to reference and build yourself up on those days where you're going to need it moving forward. You're going to need some encouragement on those days where you're not receiving it from other people, but rather you're going to need it because you just need it. And we can change the narrative, change the scene, change the momentum of the things that we got going on in the world, of where we're at with this negative landscape that we're in. Be the positive influence, be the light you need to be, and let's keep moving forward one step at a time, investing in you so that way we can invest in others at the same time. I hope that makes sense to you, because I felt really passionate about it as I was ready to set up for this podcast here today. Okay, guys, listen, on the back end here, do me a favor today. If you listen to this podcast on any of the platforms of where we're at through iTunes, Spotify, Google Music, Podbean, whatever it is that you listen to this podcast on, do me a favor today, especially on iTunes. Go down to the bottom of the page where you find the podcast at. Scroll all the way down. If you haven't already, if you have already, I truly appreciate it. But if you haven't already left a review, a 5-star review or 4-star, whatever star review that you feel is necessary, and then leave some comments down there for me. And here's the reason why. Because on the comments, what happens is when people scroll by the podcast, they want to see what other people are thinking. And maybe they read the reviews to say, okay, this looks pretty cool. This is really insightful. It's helpful, or whatever it is. I really, truly appreciate it if you guys could do that for me, because I feel that it helps to build the podcast, spread it out to a broader spectrum so that more people can see it, get eyes on it, and those kind of things. And I can help that many more people as I go along the way, which is my overall journey and overall goal of this podcast. So if you get a chance, leave a review. Put whatever star review you want to be able to put on there. Leave some comments for me on ways that I can make it better, or just leave reviews on what you like about the podcast, guys, okay? Have a great day, everybody. Let's talk soon. And until the next one, be the best version of you and do everything you need to do to make sure we keep spreading positivity and love throughout the world. We'll talk later.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Please do us a favor and leave feedback and a 5-star rating on whatever platform that you use.